Hello, friends. It is Catherine. I'm gonna see if I can see the comments here. You guys can see me. I wanted to do this from outside today, but we'll see how it goes. It's kind of windy. It's a Saturday, so there's a lot of people out. But I am just going to, let's see if I can add. No, that's not it. Let's see if I can tag some people's. Oh, Patrice is here. Hi, Patrice. All right. Hopefully some people will join me. Who knows? It's Saturday. It's late in some places. I know it's late for you, Patrice. You little night owl, you. So hopefully I can do this outside and I won't be interrupted and it'll be fun and nice for me because it's too nice to be up in my office today. So I want to talk about something really important because we overthink a lot of the stuff that we do in terms of like, well, how do I make changes? Like how can I just think differently? How can I feel differently? And we get caught up in all the details and we get really overwhelmed and confused about how to make tangible, real, material, practical changes in our everyday lives. And a lot of the times we overthink it. And a lot of the times the part of us that's overthinking is that exact kind of energy of mind and the programming that kind of thwarts all of our good efforts, all of our great ideas about how we can show up and just have better lives, have a better quality of life in general. So it takes really understanding just a few basic things. And I mean, I can go into a lot of the neuroscience behind all of what I'm talking about here, but I'm going to really kind of just distill it down to an essence to make it really easy for you guys to understand that you have the ability to hack something that is such a powerful driving force in your life. I mean, your subconscious mind controls 95% of the program of who you are. And you, me, and everyone we know, we're all running a program of being. We are all running a program or a pattern, which is a way of being that continues day after day after day after day after day, unless we can swoop in with a higher level of mind and different level of consciousness to override the program. Okay, so we've got about 50 to 70,000 thoughts in our head every day. 80% of that, 80% of those thoughts are negative. 95% of those thoughts are repetitive, meaning it's a program. Okay, so only 5% of you really is consciousness in terms of like, okay, if you think about the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is like the newest part of the brain, basically, only 5% of that contains our consciousness, meaning self, what we know of as self, and awareness of self. The rest is subconscious, meaning it is underneath that conscious level. Okay, this is just basic stuff. But just because that 95% of consciousness, that subconscious program that is running and it's dictating the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors that we have in our everyday life, it doesn't mean that we can't interrupt that pattern, that we can't interrupt that program, that we don't have the control to swoop in and override the program and put in a new one. We can redirect it. Okay, so what does it take at first? So I'm giving you some real tangible steps here because I really want you to understand this, and I know I feel very, very compelled to share this with you, not only because it's something that I share in Become the Creatrix program. By the way, we start next Thursday, and I share a very real, tangible, practical method for you to override whatever program that you're running, redirect it, and put in a new one. This is the call to action for all of us, because we don't get to play the victim or the martyr anymore and say that, oh my God, I'm at the mercy of this or I'm at the mercy of that, and I can't change this, I can't change that. You can. And I'm sharing with you today some very real, tangible stuff that you can implement right now, today, right now. But right after this talk, start doing it in your life and see the difference for yourself and know that I'm not just blowing smoke here. This is real stuff. And this is, based on neuroscience too. So it's not just woo, okay? This is practical, tangible stuff that meets you where you are at, wherever you're at right now, okay? So if you've got any disempowering feelings about, like, I'm not in control of my life, let's throw that out, girlfriend, because there's no room for that anymore. We know too much about how the brain works. We don't know all of it, but we know too much about how the brain works and how we work and how our lives are directed by this program of mind and how we can change it, okay? So there's no excuses anymore. So it really takes hyper-awareness of your thoughts and your feelings. So what is on the loop, okay? So when I talked about we have 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day, 95% of that is repetitive, meaning you are thinking the same thoughts over and over again. They're on a loop, like a hamster on a wheel, okay? You have to get conscious of that unconscious, repetitive program. So you have to start thinking about the thoughts that you're thinking. So the best way to do this, the easiest way to do this, is step one, you have to become the objective observer of your thoughts, okay? So when I first started to do this and really started to kind of dismantle my whole reality and what I was thinking and my repetitive loop of thoughts, I started thinking about, okay, what am I feeling right now? So you have to get really present. You have to get very present. There's no other way to be the objective observer of your thoughts other than to get really present. What am I thinking right now? Hi, Allison. And what you are thinking right now is most likely on that repetitive loop, that 95% of the programming that's going on in your subconscious mind all the time, okay? So what are you thinking? Is it your money situation that is really, really driving you crazy right now? There's never enough money. I never have enough money to pay the bills. Okay, here we are coming up at the end of the month. Is there too much month left over at the end of money, right? Do you have that problem where it's just like, I don't have enough to have, all my bills paid and my rent paid and whatever. So maybe what's on a repetitive loop for you is how you never have enough money. Maybe you've been trying to find, that perfect life partner for yourself for a long time. And maybe part of your repetitive thinking is, why am I so unlovable? What is wrong with me? Okay, so you're finding all these different ways, all these different thoughts that kind of go around the same emotion, that there's something wrong with you, something unlovable. Maybe the deeper core of that is unworthiness. I'm going to talk about the emotion behind it in a second. But get aware of, be the objective observer of your thoughts. This takes practice, okay? This isn't the easiest thing for us to do because we want to resist. Because here's what happens. The second the ego catches on that we're trying to do something to change our program, because the ego is all about being in charge of, our way of being. The ego likes to be in control. It likes to be in the driver's seat of our everyday existence. The second the ego suspects that something's up and that it's about to be unseated from its place of power, it will thwart you. It'll say, why are you thinking about this? Don't think about this. Don't you want to watch that TV? Don't you want to binge watch whatever you're binge watching right now? For me, it's Killing Eve. Don't you want to binge watch, the last 3 seasons of The Walking Dead? Wouldn't you rather go out and party with your friend? Wouldn't you rather do this? Wouldn't you rather do that? That's when you get really savvy, when you become the objective observer of your thoughts. You can get really savvy when the ego is trying to creep in and just say, hey, you don't want to change. That means I lose all my power. That means we have to be uncomfortable. That means we have to move into a place of the unknown. The ego doesn't like that. So it's gonna try to swoop in and throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing, okay? But good news, when you become the objective observer, you get really good at seeing where the ego is super sneaky and trying to sneak in and say, oh, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna derail this, okay? So you have to notice the thoughts. You have to get really present with what you are thinking. What are you thinking right now? And you want to write down those thoughts that are repetitive for you. If there's that one thing that you're focused on right now that's going wrong, because of our natural negativity bias as human beings, we all have this. It's all part of the ancient circuitry of the brain to have a negativity bias. That means that we're going to notice all the things going wrong before we notice the things going right. This is a basic survival instinct that we all have. Because if you notice the things that are going wrong, you'll be able to relieve or remove yourself from any kind of potential threat, okay, that is life-threatening to you, okay? This is just part of our ancient circuitry of the brain. Problem is, in modern day existence, you know, we see our boss yelling at us as a potential life-threatening situation. It's not. It makes us feel like we suck, but it's not going to threaten our lives, not necessarily. It may threaten our livelihood, but that's different. The way the negativity bias works in our everyday life is we have a very well-trained brain to put its mindful attention on the things that are potential threats in our everyday existence. That means the things that make us uncomfortable, the things that take us out of our zone of familiarity, the things that focus on, anything that is unknown is deemed unsafe by the most ancient part of our brains, that part of our circuitry, okay? It's just survival instinct stuff. But you have to learn how to override that. Again, that's a program. You have to learn how to override it. So where are you noticing the bad over the good? This negative, repetitive programming that is 80% and 95% of our programming respectively, this is what we're focused on. This is what the brain is giving mindful attention to for most of our day. What is it? Write it down. Get aware of what those thoughts are. What are they? I'm poor. I'm cursed. I'm unlovable. I'm not worthy. Whatever thought is self-deprecating, self-diminishing, self-discounting, write it down. This is a negative program that you're running, and it's most likely the program that is dictating your everyday existence and navigating your everyday existence, so that one day to the next, it's a repetitive program. Nothing changes, even though you might be thinking, God, it would be nice to just have money, or God, it would just be nice to have, a soulmate. As much as you wish and you desire that, and I'm going to talk about affirmations in a second, why they don't work. As much as you desire that, you're not looking at the negative programming. You're not addressing what's deeper underneath the surface. You have to crack yourself open and look at what you're really thinking, and ultimately what you are really feeling. Write it down. Be the objective observer. Get present with your thoughts all day, every day. Like I said, it takes practice. It's not the easiest thing. But if you really want to change your reality and have a long-term shift, a positive shift that you can sustain, this is what you must do. There's no magic pill, okay? You got to just change, override, redirect the program. Notice your repetitive thoughts that are negative. This takes practice, but do it. And once you do that, what's the bigger emotional theme there? When you figure out the thoughts that are on that negative, repetitive loop, chances are you're thinking the same thoughts over and over again. Out of those 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, 80% of those are the same ones over and over. You might get creative about how you say them to yourself, because we're very creative beings. So maybe you're having that same core negative emotion presented to your mind with a lot of different negative thoughts that kind of represent the same theme, okay? And what we want to get to, where we want to crack ourselves open even more, is to get to the emotional theme underneath that core negative emotion. Because here's the thing. There's about 1 or 2 core negative emotions that are the driving force in our lives. They have been driving our everyday existence up to the present. And there's about 1 or 2 that do that, okay? We have other, especially as women, we feel all the feels. We feel everything on the emotional spectrum very intensely, very profoundly. But in terms of what's been navigating our lives, the driving force of our lives, there's 1 or 2 that are really at the core of our very being, okay? When you look at these repetitive thoughts, what would you say that core negative emotion is? Is it fear? Is it lack? Is it blame? Resentment? Grief? Anger? Frustration? Overwhelm? Self-doubt? Shame? Shame is one of the lowest vibrating emotions. and it is one of the most damaging. So if you're holding on to thoughts that if you were to funnel those thoughts down to their core emotional base, if you find or you believe that it's shame, sister, you need to clear that up right away, because that is one of the deepest core negative emotions that will severely limit us in any forward movement in our lives. It causes all of the other emotions on the emotional spectrum. Shame, it's the absolute worst. Struggle, is it suffering? Okay, there's so many different emotions it can be, but you have to get really clear about what that is for you. You need to identify that and kind of isolate this feeling and say, okay, that's what it is. That's what it is. And you can whittle it down to one or two core negative emotions. These core negative emotions are responsible for running the program that you are running. I'm going to say that again. If you are able to identify and then isolate these one or two core negative emotions, they are responsible for the program that you are running. And they are the navigating force in your life, the driving force in your life that has brought you up to the present moment. Okay? Then what you need to do, these are steps, I'm giving you steps here. Once you identify that, don't get crazy about it, don't get all overwhelmed and crazy and say, oh my God, I have so much work to do. Just take a breath, be with it, be with the fact and accept the fact and forgive yourself for the fact that this emotion has been driving you in your life up until this point. It's okay. It's okay. We are all humans. We are all feeling different things on this emotional spectrum. We've had a lifetime of experiences, events, triggers in our life that have allowed this emotional experience to become so memorized within us that it has become the driving force in how we live our lives. It's okay. It's okay. Everyone has to deal with this at some point. Be in a place where you can congratulate yourself for at least letting yourself see this. To be able to observe that this is something that is it's a conflict for you. It creates conflict within, and you're willing to take yourself to a place where you're able to look at this. This is a lot more than most people will do. A lot of people don't want to crack themselves open. It's very painful. Is it worth it? Can you completely change your life if you're willing to do it? Absolutely. But it's going to suck when you first look at it, okay? I'm not the kind of person that's going to tell you like, oh, it's going to be easy once you figure this out. No, it's not. It takes a lot to be able to grapple with this concept that this emotion that we've allowed this emotion to run our lives. We've memorized it so well that we, have kind of canceled out other ways of being. But it's okay, because we all do it. But you're doing more than most people will do by being willing to identify this and take a look at it. So just take a deep breath, give yourself a little pat on the back, and just say, it's okay. It's okay. Now I know. Now I know. You are equipped with knowledge and wisdom and insight, okay? That means that however you attempt to go further in your life, you are equipped with this wisdom and insight. Again, more than most people are willing to do, okay? Now you need to focus on some thoughts that counter that emotion. So go back to those original thoughts that you were thinking, the ones that are in a repetitive negative loop. How would you, and the best way to do it is create a column of those negative repetitive emotions that you're thinking, that are that hamster wheel of thought that goes through your brain every single day, day in, day out. What thoughts can you write down that you would like to think that counter the original thoughts? Now, this is not positive thinking. This is not just affirmations, and I'll tell you why. The difference between doing something like this and just reciting, affirmations or just doing positive thinking is that you are looking at the program. You are not engaged in a self-negating, and yes, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that just saying affirmations is a self-negating behavior because that means that you are not willing to look at the deeper program that's running. You're already cracking yourself open here. You're already looking at the negative thoughts that you're thinking. And if you are distilling that down to the essence of the core emotion that is at the underlying surface of that thought, you are already being an objective observer of your own life. This means that you are taking creative direction in your life. Just reciting positive affirmations is not necessarily doing that, because you're not looking at the deeper thing that's going on. Do you understand the difference? If you understand the difference, give me a heart. So write down then the thoughts that you would like to think. For me, when I was really dealing with lack and a lot of self-doubt, and self-doubt is just, it's something that I'm always going to struggle with. I know that that's just a big part of me, and it has a lot to do with the kind of archetype I am, the kind of, it has to do with my astrological sign, it has to do with my numerology. There's a lot of things going on that kind of zero in on my negative core emotion, which is self-doubt. And if I understand that this is something that it's okay, it's a work in progress for me. We all are a work in progress, right? You're never going to completely figure this out. Not while you're here on this earth. Maybe you can come back 20 more times and do it completely, and you never have to deal with any negative emotions again. But while we're here, the best thing we can learn how to do is to manage and override the program and be able to redirect. Because we can't expect to be humans in a 3D body here and not feel something that makes us entirely human. And in fact, it is the basis for our humanness, is to feel. And we will always feel all the emotions on the emotional spectrum. That's part of the learning experience of being a human, having a 3D experience. Okay, we knew that when we came here. So you're not going to negate that feeling, that core negative emotion that is the driving force in your life, but you can override it, and you can constantly redirect it. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. So from my standpoint, it was self-doubt. So for me, it was mistrusting my ability. Let's just use my business as an example. Mistrusting my ability to be able to offer my services, packages, or programs at a steeper price point than I was offering them before, because I used to think, well, no one will ever sign up for my programs at this price. That's too expensive. Who do I think I am, right? Self-doubt, okay? So how I would redirect those thoughts would be, okay, well, I want to focus on all the things I'm doing right. I want to focus on all the things that I have done right in my business, all of the challenges I've overcome in my business, all of the great testimonials I've received in my business, focusing on the conversations that I've had in coaching calls, mentoring calls with women, where they have told me point blank that this is helping. This is the best thing they've ever learned. This was a great tool. This was a great resource. So I had to fortify myself with so many things that countered my deeper core negative emotion of self-doubt, so that I could feel self-belief. Okay? So where would you do that? Let's just say self-doubt is what you're working with. How do you counter that with thoughts that are things that you believe about greater self-belief? What would you write down? What would be some of those thoughts? Write them down, okay? That way, when you're able to focus on the things that counter the core negative emotion, okay, and they're actually things that have happened in your life, your subconscious mind says, yeah, that's true, because your subconscious mind is it's constantly looking for ways to corroborate truth, okay? Your subconscious mind is always looking for ways to translate truth into reality, or your feelings into reality, okay? So if you are able to actually excavate things from your past and kind of catalog, inventory things that have actually happened, feelings you've actually had that corroborated with an actual event, an experience, whatever, and you write them down and you focus on those things and you create thoughts around those things, the subconscious is more likely to get on board with a new program, because it says, oh, well, that's true, and we know that that's true. Positive affirmations don't necessarily work, especially if you're working with something like, if you're dealing with poverty or scarcity and a real lack mindset. If you're walking around just saying positive affirmations, you're writing them down, you're putting on Post-it notes on your refrigerator that says, I am wealthy, your subconscious is saying, yeah, right. No, you're not. That's bullshit. And we know it's bullshit. Look, all you have to do is look at your bank account. So your subconscious will look for ways to translate that into reality or translate it into a truth for you. Okay? So the affirmations don't work because they don't interrupt the program. They don't. Because the subconscious is resisting, saying, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true either. That's not true. So a really good tool is actually using something called affirmations. Affirmations takes, let's just say, something you would like to be true, and you put it in the form of a why question. Why am I so abundant? Why am I so prosperous? Why do I believe in my abilities so much? When you're putting it in the form of a question, what you're actually doing is putting the subconscious mind to work on its own to look for the truth or the validation of that. So when you put it in the form of a question, what you're doing to the subconscious mind is giving it a job to do. And you're giving it a redirect by saying, here, subconscious, let's put your mindful attention on why this is true. Show me all the ways this is true. And it will look for validation in your external environment to show you ways that's true. And so things start showing up more in your external environment that you notice. Because again, instead of putting your attention, your mindful awareness on the negative, if you put your positive affirmation in the form of a question, an affirmation, you're giving the subconscious a job to do to say, you know what? Show me all the ways this is true in my external environment. And what the mind does, then it says, see, it's over here. See, it's over here. See, it's over here. So it's a really wonderful thing. If you don't know about affirmations, Noah St. John has a great book, and he's the creator of affirmations. I teach the people in my Wealth Consciousness Collective how to use them, and they're amazing. That's a great way to redirect. Which brings us into the next part of this. You've created hyper-awareness. You've taught yourself how to become the objective observer, meaning if you are objective, you're not subjective. If you are the objective observer of your thoughts and emotions, you don't have to let yourself go down the spiral or the rabbit hole or, the emotional descent down into these thoughts, down into the emotions. You're just the observer. You're just taking inventory of like, that's interesting. I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that, I'm thinking that. When you're the subjective observer of your thoughts and emotions, you're actually allowing yourself to go down the rabbit hole of all that self-doubt, of that lack, of that remorse, of that resentment. You know what I mean? Do you see the difference? So when you're the objective observer, you create hyper-awareness of your thoughts and your feelings and those core negative emotions that are at the base of those repetitive negative thoughts that you're thinking. You become hyper-aware. You become the objective observer of your reality. This is a very empowering place to be. And that's the first step. If you don't initiate that, if you don't get to that place, you will not be able to do the rest of what I'm talking about. So you got to get really good at being aware, present with your thoughts and your feelings all day, every day, if you really want to create long-term shifts and changes in your life, okay? So the redirect, this is the next part. Get really good at noticing when the negative thought creeps in, okay? And like I said, the ego is sneaky. You might be wanting to create so much change in your life, and you might be really good at, let's just say those negative thoughts, or noticing those negative thoughts. But the ego will get creative about how it sneaks stuff into your reality, because it doesn't like to be unseated from its place of power. So understand, this is just what the ego does. It's not there to hurt you necessarily, but it looks for ways that you are delving into the unknown, into the unfamiliar. It's its own kind of fucked up way of keeping you safe. Okay? Again, we're in a 3D body, so we can't negate the ego. We can't get rid of the ego while we're here in a 3D body, in a 3D existence, but we can override it. We can move beyond it. We can transcend the ego in this lifetime. Okay? So when you get really good at noticing your negative thoughts, meaning there's no negative thought or emotion that can creep by you unnoticed because you're hyper aware. You're the objective observer. You're in a very empowered place where you are observing what comes into your field of awareness, and nothing can slip by you unnoticed that is unfavorable to you. This is the goal. This is self-mastery, by the way, okay? So it takes practice to get there. So don't feel like you're going to do this tomorrow. It doesn't happen that way, but you get really good at it once you do it every day and you get used to this process. So no negative thought can creep in, no negative emotion can creep in without being unnoticed by you. And you can stop it in its tracks. It's going to be sneaky. The ego is sneaky. These subconscious thoughts, it's programming that has been there since we were 5, 6, 7 years old. So you have to redirect the program. So when you notice that negative thought creeping in, the negative emotion creeping in, what do? Something really simple. It's going to be so simple you're going to get mad at me. I'll be like washing the dishes, okay? Let's just say some benign task. Or I'm in the shower, or I'm vacuuming, or I'm walking my dog, or I'm riding my bike. And I'll start thinking about, let's just say, some things that are going wrong with, like, I'm creating content in a course and I'm stuck on this one part, and I'll think about all the ways that I'm stuck in this one part, and instead of thinking about all the things that are going right with this program I'm creating or all the content I'm creating. And then I'll notice myself, because I'm a really good objective observer, thinking this thing and kind of going over and over and over again in my head, and I'll say stop or change. And it's like, it's the equivalent of having a rubber band on your wrist and snapping it. It's snapping yourself to attention. It's getting yourself present. Because when we're in those moments and we're just letting the program override, we are either in the past or we're in the future, but we're not in the present. So when you say change or stop or redirect, whatever your little buzzword is, okay, let's call it your subconscious safe word, whatever that is for you, when you say it out loud, you bring yourself completely into the present. And then you get to be aware of, okay, what am I thinking? What am I feeling now? And then you get to go back and redirect. What is the thought you want to think? What is the feeling you want to feel? It is that simple. It's not easy. It's not easy because it takes practice to execute this and to get really good at executing it. And here's the most important thing about executing this. You have to become such a good objective observer, such a master of your inner experience, that the second you realize you're having the thought that is out of alignment with the desires that you are creating, you have to stop it before the feeling comes in. And here's what we know about thoughts and feelings. They are on a beautiful, inextricably intertwined loop. You have a thought, you have a feeling. You have a thought, you have a feeling. You have a feeling, you have a thought. They are connected to each other, okay? They are entangled in a quantum perspective. Can't have one without the other. But the important thing is, if you want to change the program that you're running, you want to override it, you have to stop the thought before it creates the emotion. That's how good you have to be at it. You have to be able to swoop in very quickly and stop the thought in its tracks before you create the emotional connection. Because it's, again, the emotion that is running the program. You have to stop the emotion in its tracks or the thought in its tracks before you create the emotion. This is what interrupts the program. Give me some hearts if you guys are following what I'm laying down here, okay? And if you really check into what I'm saying, you'll know that that's true, right? You know that that's true. Because when you, let's just say, have something happen in your external environment, let's just say you're having a bad day. So you start off, you're in traffic, so you just feel like, oh my God, I'm late again. And then you start going into, let's just say you're on a spiral of kind of, self-hatred or self-deprecation. So great, I'm late again. I'm going to get yelled at again. Why am I such a jerk? Why am I so stupid? Why am I doing this all the time? Why do I sabotage myself all this time? Why don't I give myself more time in the morning so I'm not stuck in traffic? And then you get to work. And you realize that, okay, well, I was supposed to have this project completed 2 days ago and it's not completed, and my team fell behind, and I'm really supposed to delegate to my team and I didn't do that. Is another opportunity for you to hate yourself, okay? Another opportunity to go down that spiral of self-hatred. And then, you go to the grocery store to get your lunch, and you realize that you forgot your debit card because you were running around so you wouldn't be late and be in traffic again, so you forgot your wallet, which had your debit card in it, and now you don't have any money for lunch. Again, another opportunity to go into self-hatred. Think of how many times in your day things happen in your external reality to validate a feeling that you have that is running a program for your way of being. We want to validate our way of being so much. This is the ego part of ourselves that is wired to do this. The ego needs to be somebody. It doesn't matter if that somebody is a good person or a bad person, if that person's feeling good or feeling bad. The ego doesn't make any of those distinctions. The ego must have an identity. The ego must be somebody. And what makes us feel like we are somebody is a core emotion that says, I am this. I am she. I am her. This is me. I am. There is an emotion at the core of who you are, or who you think you are in the ego identity sense of things, that tells you who you are. I exist. I am. I am poor, therefore I am. I am self-hating, therefore I am. Okay, do you guys get what I'm saying here? How many times in your day are things happening in your outer environment, call them triggers, experiences, events, to corroborate that feeling that in the ego sense of who you are tells you who you are? Start thinking in these broader terms. And when you start thinking in that broader sense and you pull back the lens on your everyday existence, you get to see the program that's running. Problem is, we are so immersed in the program. We're so in the matrix, right? That we don't pull back the lens so that we can be the objective observer and see the program from an outer perspective. But we can. We always have this power because we always have the power to do one thing. Control our inner reality. Always and ever. You can't control necessarily the things that happen in your outer reality. However, when you get better, when you reach master level of your experience of controlling your inner reality, the things that show up on the physical plane, the material world changes. It has to. It is universal law. So if you want to change the larger program of your life and how it's running, you must understand this imperative. You have to be the master of your inner experience. There is no other way. There is no other way. And I'm not talking about manifesting here. That's only a small fraction of what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about being the master of your inner experience and holding an emotional foundation of you inside that you've memorized so well that it has overridden your previous program based on a core negative emotion. It is so strong, so fortified, that nothing in your outer reality, no trigger, no event, no experience, can move you from that. That is self-mastery, my loves. And it is possible. And it is more possible for us to understand and do this than it has ever been, because we understand more about our quantum level perspective and way of being than we ever have. We understand the idea of entanglement, right? That I talked about briefly with thoughts and emotions are entangled with each other. Your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, your internal reality, your external reality, they are all entangled with each other. We understand this more than we ever have. Our brains have evolved to bring in this knowledge in a way where it makes sense, it's tangible to us, okay? There's no excuses anymore for not living the life that you want to live. I'm sorry, not sorry, but that's absolutely true. So how do you then, once you get to this place where you can say stop, and you can say change, redirect, and then move into the thought that you want to have, and ultimately feel into that feeling. So when you are moving into that thought that you want to have, what is that core positive emotion that you want to embody? So when I think of what I had struggled with, and probably always will, but how I'm constantly redirecting it, is self-doubt. So for me, the counter is self-belief. So I think thoughts that affirm who I am, in the sense of what I'm capable of, what I've done, my achievements, my accomplishments, where I've overcome things, I've been victorious over certain things in my life, my strengths, I focus on my resilience, my ability to be so committed, so dedicated to myself that it overrides the program of self-doubt that I was previously running. And so I'll go into those feelings of, okay, well, what does self-belief feel like for me? What do I want to believe self-belief feels like for me? What do I want to know and embody in terms of what self-belief feels like? Well, for me, it feels like everything's going right. Everything is smooth. Everything feels easy because I'm dedicating so much energy to working on all the things that I feel could be better about me. I'm taking everything about me that I already know are my strengths and I'm making them stronger. I'm working so much on my inner reality to make all of the resilience I have, all the strengths that I have even stronger, to make all of my gifts and my talents and my abilities that I have even stronger. This is an everyday process. It doesn't stop. But when you do this as a regular process, it stops being something that you do and it just becomes who you are. And if it's who you are, that means you are running a new program. That means you are the new program. You have installed successfully a new program. When it stops feeling like something that you do, it's just who you are. So how do you sustain it? Okay, so this brings us into step 3. So recapping, step 1, being the objective observer of your reality. Step 2, step 1 is hyper-awareness. Hyper-awareness, very present with your thoughts and your feelings and how you are behaving. Step 2 is the redirect. Noticing you're having those thoughts, say change, which automatically just brings you right into the present, right? And then redirecting with the thought you want to have, okay? And you can even say affirmations. You can create affirmations for yourself. I do that too. Then you want to sustain it. How do you sustain it? You need to stay in the feeling. This is where you tap into your inner creative. This is where you tap into that higher field of intelligence within you, the inner creatrix, your inner source essence, your God essence, your goddess essence, whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. It's all the same energy. You have it, I have it, everyone you know has it. This higher field of intelligence, this stream of consciousness and awareness that resides within us all. It is buried way deep down under all the layers of human conditioning, human beliefs and human ideas and any kind of self-limiting thoughts or feelings that we have, but it's there, it's always there. And it is the beating, pulsating heart of all of us. Because it truly is what is, allowing us to live and be in this world. It is the infinite part of us that has decided to come here and be human, okay? When you are tapping into this inner creative, the inner creatrix as I call it, and you are sustaining this feeling, okay? Because this feeling that you want to have, it's going to be a higher vibration feeling than the lower negative vibration that you were feeling that was the driving force in your life. So if you're tapping into this higher vibration, this higher frequency, you're automatically in alignment with that inner creative, the higher field of intelligence that's really running the show. It's not the ego that's running the show. The ego just thinks it's running the show, but this higher field of intelligence is really running the show. And when you're tapped into that higher vibrational feeling that you want to have, that you want to be navigating the course of your life going forward, you are in alignment with your inner creative, your inner creatrix, that higher field of intelligence. The longer you stay connected to that feeling, what you are doing on a biological level, on a physical level, is you are memorizing this new feeling in the body. So the old self-negating emotion, that core negative emotion, those 1 or 2 core negative emotions that were the driving force of your life before, that was a feeling that you had memorized. This is what the ego is saying, oh, this is who I am because I feel this. That is a feeling you had memorized. The longer you stay connected to this frequency of this new feeling, you are memorizing it. You are anchoring it into the body. You are embodying a new program, a new way of being. It's all about the feeling. You guys get what I'm saying here, that it's all about the feeling? Embellish as much as possible when you are in this feeling. Think thoughts that are, branching off from the original thought that you wanted to create to get into the feeling in the first place. We are creative beings. This is not hard for us to do. And if you're already in the feeling and you're already letting it expand into every cell of your being, it's actually really, really easy to create more thoughts to help perpetuate that feeling. Okay? Embellish as much as possible. Keep thinking new thoughts. Stretch this present moment out where you are feeling this feeling as long as you possibly can. Keep building on it in this space. Where one thought just builds on another, you are stretching and you are elevating the frequency even more. And the longer you keep feeling in the body, this feeling, the more you are memorizing the new feeling. And the more you are creating a new program. So this has to be an everyday thing, because let's face it, it's taking you 20, 30, 40 years, maybe more, to create the program you had been running up to this point. If you're going to override it, this has to be an everyday process, because what you are doing is you are teaching the body to feel a new way with a different frequency, overriding the old program. That's how you sustain it. How do you keep sustaining it? Spend more time noticing all the things that are going right, okay? So, remember how I talked about in the beginning of this talk, the negativity bias, that ancient circuitry that we have that forces mindful attention on the things that are potential threats versus the things that are good, okay? You want to override that negativity bias as well, because that's what's keeping the old program running. So start getting really good, very well practiced at noticing all the things that are good. When we have something bad that happens in our life, if you were, you had an argument with one of your best friends, okay? You could have a million things going right in your day. I mean, you could have had a check come in the mail that was, maybe something you had been expecting, or, maybe your kids did really well at school and it was a good day for them. But you had that argument with your girlfriend in the morning and it was nasty and you exchanged some really nasty barbs with each other. That's going to be the thing that sticks in your head all day long. That's going to be the thing that's like you're lying in bed at night trying to go to sleep. That's going to be the thing that you're thinking about. You're not going to focus on all the great things that happened in your day those will seem like kind of footnotes in your day. The thing you're going to remember, and what the brain is really good and very well trained at after thousands and thousands of years of human evolution, is to focus on that negative thing that is a potential threat to you. You have to get more practiced at noticing all the things that are good. Yes, a gratitude practice is wonderful, and that's exactly why, because you will focus on the things that are going good, okay? Having more of a sense of being the objective observer, okay, means there's no other way to be the objective observer than to be really present. You have to be present. You have to be aware. You have to be in tune with what's coming into your field of awareness as it's coming in. So this means you must be present, okay? But when you're doing that, you're also available to be appreciative of all the things that are working out, all the things that are going well. Train yourself to be present enough to notice when, hey, the sun is on my face right now. This feels wonderful. Oh, wow, my coworker brought me a cup of coffee when she went to get one for herself. How nice is that? I mean, it sounds simple, but these are the things that you need to focus on, okay? This is where you need to train your brain to focus on the good rather than the bad. Because again, you are overriding a program. That Negativity bias is a program. It's a biological imperative. I mean, it's there, but it doesn't have to rule your everyday existence so that you feel like life is just something to get through. That life is just a series of like things that put you in crisis management. That's not life. That's not why we're here. And what I'm sharing with you here is ways for you, very tangible and real ways for you, to override a program where you feel like, I'm just living in survival mode consciousness. I'm just trying to get through the day, get through the week, get through the month, get through the year. And before you know it, years have gone by and you're like, what have I done with my life? What am I doing? Who am I? Am I really this person that's still this wounded little girl that, you know, is carrying all this trauma from when I was 7 years old, and I'm still this person and I haven't changed it and I didn't know how to change it? I'm telling you that you can. And you have the power and the control over your inner reality. And when you do that and you become very well practiced and you become the master of your inner experience, your outer experience has to change. It's universal law. And I'd love to tell you that there's, you know, some magic pill that you can take, but this is how you do it. And I teach this as a very powerful method, and it's more involved than what I'm sharing with you here, because it's a process and we step it out, because it's a lot easier for you to retrain your whole way of being, your brain biology and your physical biochemistry, if you learn how to do it in steps, because the ego will resist it less. So what I'm sharing with you here is a very brief version of what I share in Become the Creatrix program. And so if you are very, very, very much interested in this stuff and you want to change your entire reality inside and out, and you want to experience long-term shifts in a positive direction, this is the program for you. This is an entirely powerful program. And if you can't get a sense of it here, I'm actually really amazing at helping people do this work and change their lives for the better. But it takes some time. It takes some time. This is a 10-week program, but I will tell you what about Become the Creatrix program. You will learn more about yourself. You will have an incredible journey of self-discovery and self-realization in this program more than any other coaching program you've taken. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It's true. You will learn so much about yourself. You will learn about how you've been, why you've been the way that you've been, and how to completely redesign, rebuild, reimagine the reality that you wish to live, and how that can be implemented. You get steps. A lot of the time when we think like, oh my God, I'm so hopeless, I'm so lost, I don't know what to do, it's because we don't have an action plan, and we don't have anyone that we know of that can give us the steps, the formula, the methodology. I am giving this to you in Become the Creatrix program. It is amazing. It is powerful, but it is not for the faint of heart. Because here's what happens, and I will tell women straight up about this. In the first 2 and 3 weeks of this program, you're going to want to quit. Because the ego goes into such a place of resistance. And don't worry, I coach you through it and I support you and I guide you through this. But there's going to be a big part of you that's going to say, I can't do this. And it's all because the ego kicks into overdrive and it starts throwing tantrums and kicking and screaming because it knows it's being unseated from its place of power. It knows it's no longer in the driver's seat. The ego doesn't like that. So it'll tell you things like, oh, you'll never change. You're just like your mother and she never changed. Oh, you've tried this a million times before and look how many times you failed. And that's when we quit. And that's exactly when you can't quit. But don't worry, I have a lot of support and I have a lot of guidance to get you through that. And that's why this program is so different. Because I'm very, very aware of the massive pitfalls that happen when you try to do this work. Because I'm not talking about anything less here than self-reinvention. I'm talking about self-recreation. Complete radical personal transformation. And when I'm talking about that level of shift, that level of long-term change, of course we're going to resist it. And I know because I've done it. I've been through all the pitfalls myself. So I have tools and tweaks and tricks in place so that you don't sabotage, so that you keep going with this. so that you can find ways to praise yourself in this process, focusing on all the things that you're doing right instead of all the things that you've done wrong in your past. And this is where we need to be, ladies. We need to be focusing on all the things that we're doing right. We need to be building on our strengths. We need to be building on our resilience. We need to be building on all of those wonderful ways that make us the unique emotional creatures that we are. We understand emotion as women better than men do. Sorry, not sorry, but we do. And we understand where these emotions can derail us, even though we might want to be in denial about it sometimes. And we understand where these emotions can take us forward. Even if we don't have a real sense of joy in our lives, we have an idea of what being in our joy could do for us and where it could take us. Focus on that. Focus on all the ways that you could be living the life that is your dream life. Focus on all the ways that you could even go beyond your dreams. Because we're starting to manifest our quantum potential more and more now, more and more than ever. And what I love to do and what I'm really amazing at helping people do is realize their quantum potential now and apply it to their everyday practical existence. So I hope this has helped you. I hope this has been instructive for you. And please do employ this, this method, what I've shared with you, because it really, really will change things. Try it for a week and see how much things shift in your outer reality. Get really good at sustaining it. Remember, there are 3 basic steps here. Go back and listen again if you're not sure what they are. And if you get really good at employing all 3 in equal measure, and especially the sustaining part, because when you sustain that feeling longer and longer, everything in your outer reality shifts. It has to. It's universal law. And so you'll get to notice then, because you'll be focusing more on the good than the bad, how all the things in your outer reality are starting to shift to match up with your inner reality. This is how this works. This is how you start to realize that you are a quantum creator of your reality. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I want to wish you all so much love and peace. Become the Creatrix program starts Thursday, May 2nd. It is an amazing, powerful program that offers you lifetime membership. In the program, every time I teach it live, you have a seat reserved for you, so you can come and upscale your life some more, up-level your life some more. And there's a lifetime membership Facebook group community as well for added support and guidance and always bonus extras. So, mwah, love and peace.